Gang, what's up? Aaron here, Canadian Looney. How's everybody doing? We're going to get right into this. Should be a great show. We have some things lined up. It's a pretty crazy day in Canada. We're going to get into the Ostriches, guys. I'm real emotional about that one. I haven't been paying it. Well, I have been from the distance paying attention. Anyways, let's get into the show. Let's kick things off. In Canadian federal politics, the Canucks are represented by two separate yet unequal groups. The globalists who sold out and the opposition trying to salvage a country. These are their stories.
We're not only in a trade war, we might be in real war. And the last thing we need is for anybody to take our patriotic battle cry of elbows up to Canadians and mock it and put it down. When Pierre Poilievre says elbows down, he is echoing MAGA.
This woman is ridiculous. She's on X all the time and she is hateful.
Talking points and attacks on our country. You can criticize Mark Carney all you want. It's your job. But you don't have to do it by denigrating Canada's sense of power and purpose and patriotism in this critical moment for our sovereignty and our economy.
The Minister of Public Safety got caught on tape telling his tenant that he need not worry about the Liberals' $750 million gun buyback because he could simply ignore it, and then proceeded to joke that he would bail him out if he got arrested. In other words, the Minister of Public Safety effectively counseled his tenant to break the law. In the face of this serious ethical lapse, will the Prime Minister fire this minister?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate another opportunity to talk about our compensation program that we launched today. At 12:30 today, Mr. Speaker, I, along with many of my colleagues, including the Secretary of State for Nature, who you've heard in this House, Mr. Speaker, of the enormous work that she has done over decades in advocating for this moment, Mr. Speaker. Survivors across Canada have asked for this, Mr. Speaker. It's important that we get weapons such as AR-15s off our streets. That's exactly what we've done. We'll be expanding this from Cape Breton to across Canada over the next 5 to 7 weeks, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for St. Albert, Sturgeon River.
Mr. Speaker, it doesn't end there. On tape, the minister admitted that the buyback rips off law-abiding firearms owners when he promised his frustrated tenant to personally pay the difference in value for his confiscated firearm. Counseling his tenant to break the law, promising to bail him out, and then trying to appease him by cutting a check. How many ethical lapses is it going to take before the Prime Minister fires this incompetent minister?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I invite this House, I invite the members opposite to have a serious conversation about guns, Mr. Speaker. When you want to talk about crime, when we want to work together to ensure that our streets are safer, it needs to be a serious conversation. It cannot be hyperbole, Mr. Speaker. What we've announced today is to take off from our streets weapons that should not be in possession of Canadians, which include AR-15s, Mr. Speaker, that are lethal and that can destroy people, Mr. Speaker. This is why we brought forward this plan. We're starting in Cape Breton. We're going to be expanding it across Canada, Mr. Speaker. I invite members opposite to support this.
Here's my theory. Can I put my theory to you?
Okay, guys, just to interrupt Ezra here for a moment. I'm a big fan of Rebel News. Ezra is not my favorite on there. He's all right. He's got a lot of great journalists that work with him, though. This one might be a little bit sensitive for some people. It's about the Ostriches. This is nuts what is happening. Come on.
This is in a remote area. And the thing about remote areas is it's hard to muster police resources. This is the difference between the trucker convoy in Ottawa, which is a city just under 1 million, and it's not too far away from the huge cities of Montreal and Toronto. So when the trucker convoy was in Ottawa, they had quick access to enormous numbers of police and, if needed, heavy equipment. Compare that to the border crossing at Coutts, Alberta, between Alberta and Montana. Very far from any police resources, the nearest city being Lethbridge, and that's not a huge city to begin with. So it made it logistically difficult for the police to crack down on the sympathetic Echo trucker convoy that was blocking the border there in February of 2022. And I remember there was this very dramatic moment, because we had a couple of reporters embedded there, where the police sort of came out in a show of force, and their goal was to scare off the local men. Well, the local men don't scare easy, and they outnumbered the police about 5-1, and they all came out. It was almost like some scene from, I don't know, William, what's the great movie about the Scottish freedom leader, William Wallace? Not Highlander, but anyhow, with Mel. Braveheart. Remember that scene in Braveheart where the armies are across the field? That's sort of what it was like. And the cops took a look around and they said, yeah, no, we'll come back another day. And I think the police are trying to figure out how to do it. And again, I don't think the police want to do it. This is some CFIA matter. And the police certainly don't want injuries. And they also know this. Every move they make is going to be filmed, right? I say it's not easy to be a cop in 2025. Political correctness, political marching orders, everyone's a critic, everyone's got a cell phone. So you're police. Now, you probably scoped this thing out 10 ways. You probably had plainclothes undercover cops on the scene. That's something we learned from Coots, isn't it? That there were undercover operators in the saloon. In the case of Coots, at least one or two of the undercover cops were women who pretended to be romantically interested in the truckers. I don't know, but I bet you $1 that the cops have someone posing as a supporter in the farm to get intel, to see who's who, to see who the organizers are, to see what their systems are. I bet you they've droned the place. I bet you they've helicoptered the place. I bet you they've used telephoto lenses on the place. I bet you they've gone to whatever municipal office and checked out the plans for the buildings and other things. So I bet the police are taking their time. So this morning when I was talking to Sheila about it, the question was, would she even get to the farm on time, given that she's got an 11-hour drive? And I think she will, not because she's going to super speed or anything, but because the police, if they've waited hundreds of days already, I don't think they're in a super hurry to bust down the gate. They probably want to be more prepared and have a safety orientation. There's a few moves they could do legally, but here's the thing. This is a private farm. And Drea and the other protesters and supporters are on the farm with the permission and consent of the farm owner. So what are you going to do? Anyway, it's going to be a very interesting thing that comes. And I'm glad we were able to connect with Drea. Is Drea still handy? Should we connect with her again, or should we talk about some other news in the world? Efron, that she's filming right now, so we won't interrupt her. Anyways, the fact that they have not raided, and it's already 11 a.m. actually, I'm not sure the time zone. There's some parts of BC that still go by mountain time. For example, the town of Golden. I don't know where this farm is exactly. Anyways, so I think the ostrich news, and I don't think I introduced the story well enough because frankly I don't have a total mastery of it, but I think Drea gave us a summary. The birds are healthy. The government says kill them anyways. The farm owner says, no, let me prove to you that they're healthy. The government says, no, we won't let you. When private companies have offered their equipment to do the cull, a backlash has caused them to pull out. That's very interesting. There are reports of police meeting in Vernon nearby. That one policeman, I mean, it sounds like the police are in constant communication with the farm, and that is to persuade, but it's also to learn and get intel. It's my theory that there are undercover cops on the farm. We saw an image of police hiding their identity. Do you have that tweet? I think Chris Dacey retweeted it, showing police hiding their face. Yeah, zoom in on this if you can. Agent Blue Sky, and I think that Chris Dacey repeated. Can you zoom in a little bit there? The RCMP are hiding their identity. And yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Finding out who the cops are. Sometimes police don't want to be known. I mean, anti-mafia police or anti-cartel police sometimes hide their face because they're worried about retaliation by the cartels. Maybe Big Ostrich has threatened him. I doubt it. I'm joking around with that.
By connecting job seekers to work simulations.
I didn't think of that. That is exactly right. Global News is already warming up the public the fear of household cats being asymptomatic avian flu spreaders. Let's play this little propaganda clip. I despise Global News. They really are the worst. Take a look.
Now experts are sounding the alarm that it could be circulating in cats. A systematic review shows both indoor and outdoor cats are getting infected with H5N1. The data includes cases from a 20-year period up to 2024. More than 600 cases across 18 countries were documented in the report, and more than 300 fatalities. Dr. Shanyan Sharif says cats can become infected in a few ways: preying on birds who are infected with H5N1 or eating dead ones, and drinking raw milk that has been contaminated with the virus. Often cats don't have signs and simply become carriers. Now,
you know, isn't that interesting? I didn't think of it, but of course, you've always got to think of the mission creep, of the slippery slope. And remember, if the governments have new powers because of an emergency, they'll treat everything as an emergency. A climate emergency, like we saw in Atlantic Canada. Oh, it's an emergency. You're not allowed to go into the forest. What? What's that got to, what? Oh yeah, even your own property, if there's a forest on it. Olivia, I just sent you a screenshot that Sheila sent me from the road, and I'll share it with the audience as well if you want to put it. I just emailed it to you. Sheila's driving, and she's listening as she goes. And she sent me this little note by text, and I just sent it to Olivia, who's putting it on the screen. And I'll wait just for one moment before reading it to you. Here we go. Hi, boss. I'm listening to the live stream, and I just want to say that this is typical of the state to break trust between local communities and the RCMP. I'll never forget how the Maine police officer, RCMP Staff Sergeant Bruce Holliday, that Alberta Health Services forced to go to the whistle stop over and over again, I'm not sure if I should read this next part, ended up committing suicide. And we found out that detail when he could not be called to testify at Chris Scott's trial. These ghoulish health agencies don't care what they're doing to anybody. They just get to make these awful orders from behind their desks and never care about the human fallout. You know what? I was a little bit involved in that case. I met Chris Scott several times. He runs the Whistle Stop Diner in Mirror, Alberta. And Mirror is a very small town. I think it's 500 people or less than 1,000 going from memory. And he just wouldn't shut down. He was like the only store in this town, the only restaurant, the only everything. And if you didn't want to go there, don't go there. But police wanted to hammer him down. Well, not police, excuse me, Alberta Health. And as Sheila said, they sent the police around again and again and again. They actually jailed him for a few days. They put a lock on his front door. And I forgot about that terrible, terrible detail about the suicide of the police officer, and I'm very sorry for his family. Exactly right. To break the trust between, you know what, the whole theory of modern policing was developed by Robert Peel. And you might have heard of the nickname for British police, bobbies. You ever heard of that? Oh, here's a bobby. And it comes from his name, Sir Robert Peel. And you want to put Peel's rules of policing? Principles of law enforcement is what they were called. I'm just going to read, you can find them in a number of places online. Principle 1, the basic mission for which the police exist is to prevent crime and disorder. Principle 2, the ability of the police to perform their duties is dependent upon public approval of police actions. That's so important. That's the difference between a police state that treats everyone like an enemy and police in a democracy where everyone helps the police because they have delegated things to the police. Principle 3, police must secure the willing cooperation of the public in voluntary observance of the law to be able to secure and maintain the respect of the public. Principle 4, the degree of cooperation of the public that can be secured diminishes proportionately to the necessity of the use of physical force. So again, the British police are famous for their light touch. Principle 5, police seek and preserve public favor, not by catering to the public opinion, but by constantly demonstrating absolute impartial service to the law. These are so good. Principle 6, police use physical force to the extent necessary to secure observance of the law or to restore order only when the exercise of persuasion, advice, and warning is found to be insufficient. Police at all times should maintain a relationship with the public that gives reality to the historic tradition that the police are the public, and the public are the police. The police being only members of the public who are paid to give full-time attention to duties which are incumbent on every citizen in the interest of community welfare and existence. Principle 8, police should always direct their actions strictly towards their functions and never appear to usurp the powers of the judiciary. And finally, the test of police efficiency is the absence of crime and disorder, not the visible evidence of police action in dealing with it. Wow. Every single one of those principles is as relevant today as when they were written over a century ago. I love the idea that police are the public and the public are the police. It's just, what's the difference? Well, police do this full time, but they're doing no more than everyone else would do because we're all in this together. But to do that, and you'll notice the repeated importance placed on impartiality, not acting as judges, being neutral, nonpartisan, goes without saying. Those are so important, and really, where else could rules like those have been founded but in the United Kingdom? And we have, the version I just read was from the Halton Peel police here in Ontario, which shows that they really are universal to the Western style of light touch policing by consent. So now, if you've got some distant and partisan bureaucracy, if you've got some busybody in Ottawa or Hull, Quebec, or the nation's capital, some dreary, government union worker who doesn't want to go back to the office, still works from home, has a Free Palestine lapel pin. If you've got some stereotypical government bureaucrat 2,000 miles away who's decided to kill 400 ostriches on the other side of the country, and the locals are getting uppity about it. Oh, well, just send in the police, just do it. That's not in sync with Robert Peel's rules now, is it? Because what is the community? The community is in the BC interior. Now, laws are the laws, but what exactly law is being broken by having some birds on a ranch? That's Sheila's point, is it is stressing out the connection between the community and the police, which is absolutely essential. I grew up in a time and a place where we looked up to police. You saw police and you thought, oh, the good guy, safety. If I'm in trouble, he's the guy. You just knew that police were safe and strong. And I'm not sure if we can say that so much anymore.
In 1982, the executive director of the United Nations.
All right, guys, this is, again, not Canadian federal politics, but what Trump is speaking about here does pertain to the government that we have. That's our enemy right now. Like, if you're a free-thinking, free critical thinker, what is going on with our government, man, none of this stuff is very digestible. I mean, it's hard to tolerate. Anyways, Trump flips out.
Nations Environmental Program predicted that by the year 2000, climate change would cause a global catastrophe. He said that it will be irreversible, as any nuclear holocaust would be. This is what they said at the United Nations. What happened? Here we are. Another UN official stated in 1989 that within a decade, entire nations could be wiped off the map by global warming. Not happening. You know, it used to be global cooling. If you look back years ago in the 1920s and the 1930s, they said, global cooling will kill the world. We have to do something. Then they said global warming will kill the world. But then it started getting cooler, so now they could just call it climate change, because that way they can't miss. It's climate change. Because if it goes higher or lower, whatever the hell happens, there's climate change. It's the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world, in my opinion. Climate change, no matter what happens, you're involved in that. No more global warming, no more global cooling. All of these predictions made by the United Nations and many others, often for bad reasons, were wrong. They were made by stupid people that have cost their countries fortunes and given those same countries no chance for success. If you don't get away from this green scam, your country is going to fail. And I'm really good at predicting things, you know. They actually said during the campaign they had a hat, the best-selling hat. Trump was right about everything. And I don't say that in a braggadocious way, but it's true. I've been right about everything. And I'm telling you that if you don't get away from the green energy scam, your country is going to fail. And if you don't stop people that you've never seen before, that you have nothing in common with, your country is going to fail. I'm the President of the United States, but I worry about Europe. I love Europe. I love the people of Europe. And I hate to see it being devastated by energy and immigration. This double-tailed monster destroys everything in its wake, and they cannot let that happen any longer. You're doing it because you want to be nice. You want to be politically correct, and you're destroying your heritage. They must take control strongly and immediately of the unmitigated immigration disaster and the fake energy catastrophe before it's too late. The carbon footprint is a hoax made up by people with evil intentions, and they're heading down a path of total destruction. You know, the carbon footprint, it was a big, big thing a few years ago. I remember hearing about the carbon footprint, and then President Obama would get into Air Force One, a massive Boeing 747, and not a new one, an old one with old engines that spew everything into the atmosphere. He'd talk about the carbon footprint, we must do so. Then he'd get in and he'd fly from Washington to Hawaii to play a round of golf. And then he'd get back onto that big, beautiful plane and he'd fly back and he'd talk about, again, global warming and the carbon footprint. It's a con job. At extreme cost and expense, Europe reduced its own carbon footprint by 37%. Think of that. Congratulations, Europe. Great job. It cost yourself a lot of jobs, a lot of factories closed, but you reduced the carbon footprint by 37%. However, for all of that sacrifice and much more, it's been totally wiped out and then some by a global increase of 54%. Much of it coming from China and other countries that are thriving around China, which now produces more CO2 than all the other developed nations in the world. So all of these countries are working so hard on the carbon footprint, which is nonsense, by the way. It's nonsense. You know, it's interesting. In the United States, we have still radicalized environmentalists, and they want the factories to stop. Everything should stop. No more cows. We don't want cows anymore. I guess they want to kill all the cows. They want to do things that are just unbelievable, and you have it too. But you know, we have a border, strong, and we have a shape, and that shape doesn't just go straight up. That shape is amorphous when it comes to the atmosphere. And if we had the most clean air, and I think we do, we have very clean air. We have the cleanest air we've had in many, many years. But the problem is that other countries, like China, which has air that's a little bit rough, it blows. And no matter what you're doing down here, the air up here tends to get very dirty because it comes in from other countries where their air isn't so clean. And the environmentalists refuse to acknowledge that. Same thing with garbage. In Asia, they dump much of their garbage right into the ocean. And over about a 1 week and 2 week journey, it flows right past Los Angeles. You've seen it. Massive amounts of garbage, almost too much to do anything about. Flowing past Los Angeles, past San Francisco. And then somebody will get in trouble because he dropped a cigarette on the beach. The whole thing is crazy. The primary effect of these brutal green energy policies has not been to help the environment, but to redistribute manufacturing and industrial activity from developed countries that follow the insane rules that are put down to polluting countries that break the rules and are making a fortune. They're making a fortune. European electricity bills are now 4 to 5 times more expensive than those in China, and 2 to 3 times higher than the United States. And our bills are coming way down. You probably see that our gasoline prices are way down.
Sunday, I had a conversation with an individual.
Sorry, guys, that Trump piece ended quickly. It was short. We're going to get into this now. We're going to see what Vasi Capella's, because she did she cut Gary Anasangre up last night. I was surprised when I saw it. She didn't let him off the hook. And now she's doing her power panel or whatever they call it when the nimwits come out and speak their minds. But maybe, I haven't seen this, maybe they're going to start opening their eyes to what is so obvious to critical thinkers, people with common sense. Anyway, let's check out the power panel here with Vasi.
For many years, who recorded it without my knowledge and had it leaked to a gun lobbyist.
The Minister of Public Safety accidentally told the truth, and he was recorded doing it. He said that the gun grab is not worth the money.
Why are the Conservatives against keeping guns off our streets? And why has this leader of the opposition voted against every single gun control measure that he's been in Parliament for?
That minister did have a real conversation about guns. Unfortunately for him, he was caught on tape. Why is it that Liberals only tell the truth when they don't think anyone is listening?
The public safety minister in the hot seat today after a leaked recording of him surfaced in a Toronto Star report. In the audio, Minister Gary Anandasangri said he doubts local police will have the resources to enforce the Liberals' mandatory gun buyback program, and says the reason the Prime Minister is sticking with the policy is to appease voters in Quebec. This isn't the first time the public safety minister, just a handful of months into the job, is facing scrutiny, though. Earlier, it was over letters he wrote on behalf of a Sri Lankan national who was previously denied permanent residence due to what the CBSA considered a protracted involvement with the LTTE, a terrorist organization. And the minister now has an ethics screen around national security files involving the Tamil community. We've got to talk to the front bench about this. With me this evening, former New Brunswick Liberal Premier Brian Gallant. He's the CEO of Space Canada now. Former Conservative Deputy Leader Lisa Raitt is here. She's the Vice Chair and Managing Director of Global Investment Banking at CIBC. CTV News political analyst and former NDP leader Tom Mulcair is with us, as is the Toronto Star's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Rob Benzie. Hi, everybody.
Hey,
nice to see you.
Hey,
Benzie, I'll start with you. We got an extended statement from the Office of Minister Anandasangri, essentially saying, I make a point to speak with Canadians who don't support our approach, to listen to their concerns, and to ensure they understand their options in this voluntary buyback program. In trying to address this individual's frustrations, my comments were misguided. He then goes on to reiterate the government's and his own support for the program. Your thoughts on, is this minister's days numbered in this portfolio, do you think?
I think they are. My colleague Mark Ramsey broke this story this morning, Vashi, and when I saw Mark's report, I thought, Gary is a mixture of Inspector Clouseau and Mr. Magoo. I'm going to date myself with those ancient references, but he is the minister who literally can't shoot straight. I'm astounded he's still on the job. He's accident prone, gaffe prone. And this is really embarrassing when he's telling his tenant, who's also his friend by the sound of the conversation on the weekend, that he'll personally reimburse him for the cost of the gun if need be. I guess he's a good landlord, but I'm not really sure that's how government ministers should behave. I'm astounded that Prime Minister Carney I'm surprised he stuck with them this far, Vashi, but I cannot see them sticking with him too much longer, especially when a lot of what he said, Pierre Poilievre is not wrong. That is the truth. Why is the government doing this? Because it does sell well in Quebec. And I think that's Gary's not wrong, but Pierre Poilievre is correct. When you tell the truth like that and you're caught, boy, it's hard to come back from it.
We did reach out, Tom, to the Prime Minister's office to see if they had anything to add or wanted to say anything about the minister's future in that portfolio, and they said that they just referred us to the statement from the minister's office. Your thoughts on the way this is going down and the significance of it happening around this program in particular, which has always been, kind of fraught with issues?
Yeah, I agree with most of what Benzie just said, but I will take a very strong disagreement with both what Gary Anandasangaree said and what Robert Benzie just said about Quebec. Quebec is the only province in Canada that has a gun registry.
Yeah, that's true.
It was saved after it was scuppered by the Conservatives under Stephen Harper across the country. Lo and behold, there was a copy that existed. And under Philippe Couillard, Quebec was able to keep that gun registry, and that's what people cared about. I have to tell you, it sounds like total malarkey. Blame it on Quebec. I've never, ever seen or heard any orchestrated, organized push about this buyback program in Quebec, because the most important thing, which is making sure that, when a police officer goes to a signaling of a domestic dispute in a rural area, they know whether or not there are guns behind the door. Now, they're going to be careful in any event, but boy, does that ever give them a leg up to have that information, and Quebec's the only place where they have it. So that's the part, honestly, that really bugged me, because I know Gary. I got a chance to travel with him once, and he's just such a gentleman. But this is lousy politics, because he's trying to scapegoat another.
Mulcair is just a loser. Retire, stupid.
Province on something, and it literally, Fasci, it's a non-issue in the province of Quebec, because the main issue, the registry, has been taken care of. So on that score, there I agree with Benzie. Bye-bye, Gary. There's no way that somebody who can say stuff like that gets to stick around.
Well, Brian, the program is supposedly, according to this leaked audio, also like a new pilot, and there have been other pilots going to be launched this week. It's maybe not the issue in Quebec that Minister Anandasangaree makes it out to be, but it is an issue in lots of rural parts of the country where they didn't like the way that this all unfolded, and they felt worried. There are police forces now who have said that they won't enforce it. If your public safety minister is on the record, essentially, not through his own choice, but otherwise, as saying he doesn't fully endorse the program, can he sell it?
Yeah, it'd be pretty difficult to do that, wouldn't it? I think that's the big issue here, and giving any sort of reason as to why such a policy is being put in place that it's politically driven is the real problem. I'll leave it to Tom and his analysis in Quebec. Certainly, he's on the ground there, so whether he's right in his political analysis or not, I don't think that really matters. I think what matters is the fact that he's not defending it in this closed meeting. And to your point, that certainly undermines his ability to do it publicly moving forward. So, look, I think if they wanted to get rid of him, they might have done it already today. Maybe they're going to see how this goes, and if it lasts long, they may also tell themselves, look, this is one policy issue, a big one, don't get me wrong, but one policy issue amongst many others. If he can sort of hopefully, from their point of view, be able to navigate the next few days with the pilot announcement that was referenced in this story, then maybe they'll give him a shot. I don't know that. I'm just trying to sort of sense what they might be thinking in that office at the moment. But yeah, to your point, it becomes very difficult. And look, people, I think, want to be able to talk to politicians and be able to say their things, and they want to hear what the person really thinks. But if you don't really support one of the key programs, then there's a real problem, right? And I think if it's to the point that maybe you're a little agnostic on a program, or maybe it's not something you would have done exactly like that, that happens. That happens to all ministers. It happens to prime ministers and premiers too, by the way. But you still have to be on board with defending it, especially when it's something that had been in the public eye for so long. So that's certainly a tough spot to be in for him moving forward.
Yeah, and just so that for full transparency, like what was reported by Rob's colleagues, Lisa, wasn't, I can understand certainly if he had gone, like Brian says, it's a great point, and said, I understand your concerns, I even sympathize with some of them, I'm going to bring them back and make sure that I raise them, but this is the program as it is. He said things like, I also don't understand the logic. Rob pointed out, he offered to pay the difference himself to the tenant. There are some pretty specific, more incriminating things than just saying, I hear you, man.
Yeah, what makes this whole thing lethal to his career and continuation as a cabinet minister is that he breached cabinet confidentiality, cabinet cohesion, cabinet solidarity. Once a decision is made in the cabinet, that's it. If you try to go against it and you lost, well, you lost, but you still have to carry the message out there. What I find interesting, though, is, in the past, I guess what would have happened in other governments is that the individual who got caught like this would offer their resignation to the prime minister, and the prime minister would say yes or no. At the beginning of my career, you may have noticed that happened a lot, quite frankly. Luckily, Stephen Harper did not take my resignation the times that I had to give it over. All that being said, it is in the hands of the prime minister now. It won't be forgotten. When there is a shuffle, I think Gary is going to be moved somewhere else. And the other part too, Vashi, to remember is there's an awful lot of backbenchers who are saying, I could do much better in that job. Give me a chance, boss. Put me in.
Cutthroat. Okay. I got to take a quick break. The front bench is...
Well, good morning.
All right, gang, we've got one more quick video here. We've got Rachel Thomas and a crew of ladies with Andrew Dalton and Jacob Mantle, it looks like. Should be fun. I haven't seen this piece either. It's only 2 minutes. Then we'll drop over to question period. Let's go.
Everyone. Today I had the pleasure of introducing my private member's bill known as the Ending Sentence Reductions for Sexual Predators Act. This bill seeks to amend the criminal code to require courts to impose consecutive sentences rather than concurrent ones when it comes to individuals convicted of sexual offenses. In plain terms, sexual predators will no longer be able to stack their crimes and walk away with a reduced sentence. Each crime will carry its own penalty, and each victim will receive the recognition that they deserve. For over a decade, liberal justice policies have increasingly favored criminals, undermining the safety and dignity of victims and communities alike. Nowhere is this more painfully evident than in the cases of sexual assault. Sexual violence is one of the most devastating violations a person can suffer, stripping away their dignity, their safety, and their trust. Yet multiple sexual assaults are often treated as only one offense, thus minimizing harm, weakening deterrence, and eroding public trust. Since 2015, sexual assaults have increased nearly 75%. Folks, let that sink in for a moment. 75%. And offenses against children by 120%. Liberal reforms have repeatedly prioritized repeat offenders, sending the wrong message that protecting predators matters more than protecting Canadians. This practice is wrong, and it must end. Sexual predators should never receive reduced sentences. That's right. Let me say it again. Never should they receive a reduced sentence. It is long overdue that we put victims ahead of criminals, and I hope that I can count on the support of all members of Parliament in this place, because Canadians are asking for this. They are asking for victims to be put first.
Senator Moore. All right, gang, we're going to drop over to question period here. It'll start in about 5 minutes. Let's get this up and going.
Honourable member for Sherbrooke.
There we go.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, welcome back. We've all returned from our ridings, more motivated than ever for this new session. I am for sure. For my part, I return with a pride in Sherbrooke that I can't hide.
That's a different look for Elizabeth Briere. Like last year, she was a young lady with blonde hair.
Today, I'm celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Sherbrooke Quantum Institute, a remarkable success story in a highly competitive field. Born out of the Apogee Canada project, with the smallest grant in its group, the Institute has transformed its ambition into concrete impact with the birth of companies such as Cubic, Nord Quantique, and SB Quantum. These companies, which grew out of student projects, are living proof of Sherbrooke's success. With more than $230 million in research, 100 scientific articles per year in the most prestigious journals, and international partnerships with France and Australia, the Institute promotes the University of Sherbrooke, Sherbrooke, and Canada, establishing itself as a world leader.
Member for Windsor-Tecumseh Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, it's an honor to rise on behalf of the people of Windsor-Tecumseh Lakeshore. I'd like to thank my community for putting their trust in me, and I promised I will always work very hard to deserve it. Today, I would like to acknowledge my friend, the Mayor of Windsor, Drew Dilkins. Mayor Dilkins is currently recovering from a recent surgery for prostate cancer. I admire him for his character, strength, and leadership in candidly sharing his story and advocating for early detection. I'm inspired to bring his message to Ottawa. September is National Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. Prostate cancer can be a silent killer, but a simple blood test can save lives. So to all men, my message is for yourself, for your children, for your friends and family, please, please get tested. I ask that we keep our thoughts and prayers with Mayor Dilkins and his family during this recovery.
Hear, hear.
Oh no, that's on their end.
The Honourable Member for Pierre Poilievre.
Mr. Speaker, this Sunday was the International Day of Peace. It was also the day our government, under the Prime Minister's leadership, recognized the state of Palestine. We did this with our allies, the UK, France, and Australia. This was a historic moment. The recognition of Palestine is in full keeping with Canada's long-standing support of the two-state solution. Since 1947, Canadian governments of all stripes have stood by this. Our foreign policy seeks to ensure that all in the region, regardless of ethnicity, faith, or what borders one happened to be born within, can live in peace and security. What is happening in Gaza is gut-wrenching. Children are being killed in the tens of thousands. Families are being repeatedly displaced. Starvation is settling in. The nightmare in Palestine has to stop. We need an end to this war, the release of all the hostages and prisoners. We need peace for Palestinians, Israelis, and all in the region. Thank you, Mr.
The Honourable Member for Bow River.
Mr. Speaker, just yesterday the Liberals voted to keep the Liberal energy production cap in place, a move that kills Canadian jobs and weakens our economy. This isn't just bad policy, it's common sense ignored. The Liberals are choking off Canadian energy, and the Prime Minister pats Beijing on the back. The regime building 2 new coal-fired power plants every week. The Parliamentary Budget Officer stated the emissions cap will wipe out $20 billion in GDP. It will cost over 40,000 jobs. That's families struggling, communities hurting, and a country falling behind. The emissions cap is a production cap. The Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers stated the emissions cap has driven investment out of Canada. The Prime Minister promised a new era that Canada will become an energy superpower, and what did the Canadians get? Bait and switch, a list that doesn't even include a pipeline project on its national interest list. Albertans know the answer isn't to keep strangling jobs with Ottawa's red tape. It's time to scrap this emissions cap. It's a production cap, and stop killing Canadian energy and revive our country.
The Honourable Member for Beauharnois, Salaberry, Soulanges, Huntingdon. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to pay tribute to a man who shaped the soul of St. Polycarpe, a centuries-old municipality in my riding. After more than 30 years of service, including 10 as mayor, Jean-Yves Poirier is ending an exemplary career dedicated to serving his community. Mr. Poirier has made his town his passion. A man of action, he knows everybody, takes an interest in their stories, and shares their joys and trials. Out in the streets, he looks after the well-being of all. Through his approachability and attentiveness, he has embodied the dignity and nobility of public service. St. Polycarpe owes him much more than his municipal achievements. It owes him for having brought together farmers, professionals, seniors, and young families, all united by their sense of belonging to their community. Your dedication, Mr. Poirier, will remain engraved in the memory and hearts of generations to come.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Quadra.
Mr. Speaker, as we continue Gender Equality Week, I want to echo the words of the chair of the Women's Caucus that every 48 hours in this country, a woman or a girl is killed, often by an intimate partner. And unfortunately, another stat is that Indigenous women and girls are disproportionately a part of that statistic. 30% of them are Indigenous women or girls, when only 5% of them make up the population of Canada. The crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls remains a national tragedy, tearing families apart, communities grieving, and families shattered. The tragedy is compounded by systems that have far too often abandoned them. And today, I think back to my own community for thousands of years of Musqueam, where women were the matriarchs. They were the decision makers. They were the ones we looked to in times of need, in times of crisis. And as a father of a young Indigenous girl, I'm so happy to be here in this house. She's here on the Hill with me today, seeing 104 women that she can look up to strengthen her for the future of this country. Thank you so much.
The honourable member for York Centre.
They rewarded terror. Speaker, Hamas started this awful war. It sliced babies, raped women, and killed 1,200 people. It kidnapped over 250 and still holds 48 hostages. Listen to Hamas. They say that state recognition is a fruit of October 7, and they vow to repeat it again and again. But the Liberals reward this barbarism by recognizing Hamastan without preconditions, not even as a return of the hostages. The Palestinian Authority in the West Bank has been paying terrorists to slaughter Jews for 20 years. That's who this Prime Minister wants in charge? Hamas is responsible for every death in Gaza by setting up military installations in schools, mosques, and hospitals. Everyone knows that. The Islamic Jihad loves to cause civilian deaths because civilian deaths on TV advance its political causes like it does right now. Canada's recognition of this Palestinian state will result in more deaths, 100%. They've recognized the terrorist state on Rosh Hashanah. Shame on you.
The honourable member for Vancouver Granville.
Mr. Speaker, this summer was truly an incredible season across the riding of Vancouver Granville. From local festivals such as the Dragon Boat races on our shore to the community days that were held across our riding, our neighbours came together in ways, so many ways, to showcase the vibrant spirit of our constituency. I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to all the volunteers and community members who helped make all these events possible. In particular, our own summer gathering, which saw hundreds of people come out to share food, stories, and ideas. It was a testament to the strength of our community and the dedication of those who give their time to bring us all together. Mr. Speaker, our constituents, including some who are in the gallery today, are the heartbeat of Vancouver Granville. Their engagement over the summer months has once again shown us that when we come together, we build a stronger, more connected community, and I'm honoured to carry those voices and their hopes back to Ottawa as we continue our work together here in this chamber. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Caribou Prince George.
In 6 months, this Prime Minister has proven he's only good at one thing: breaking promises. Yep. He promised the fastest growing economy in the G7. Instead, he delivered the fastest shrinking economy. He said Canadians should judge him by the prices at the grocery store. Food prices are now higher than ever before he was Prime Minister. Build, baby, build, he said. Double the pace of home construction, he said. Instead, is being block, baby, block, and home building is down 16%. Yep. Building major projects at speed we haven't seen in generations, he said. He must have meant glacial speeds. He hasn't granted a single permit. He claimed he'd get a deal done with the U.S. by July 21st. Elbows up, he said, and yet elbows are firmly down, tucked in, and this guy's afraid to go into the corners. Canada still has no deal. He pledged he would spend less, but spending is up 8%, and the deficit is projected to reach over $100 billion. This guy fashions himself as a hockey player. Well, I'm a hockey coach, and he should be benched.
The honourable member for Argenteuil-La Petite Nation. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate two of our people, two true artists of Montebello's pastry, Sabrina Sigouin, owner of La Belle Pâtisserie, and Sandra Major, owner of Le Sucre au Four. Together, they won the Grand Prix at the International Baking Industry Expo in Las Vegas, whose competitive portion was held from September 13th to 17th. The IBIE is the largest event in the Western Hemisphere in the field of grain-based foods, a trade show that brings together all segments of the baking and pastry industry. In a fiercely competitive international competition, Sabrina and Sandra truly stood out, both for the finesse of their artistry and their technical mastery, their sculpted cakes decorated with buttercream, and their overall creativity. Their victory is not just a local victory, it's a national and even international recognition of the talent we have in our region. In Argenteuil, la petite nation.
A member for Edmonton Northwest.
For Indigenous people, this gun grab program threatens our Aboriginal inherent and treaty rights to live off the land. Our hunting rifles are not the Prime Minister's political props. They are part of our way of life and tradition, passed down through generations rooted in responsibility to feed our families. Confiscating lawful guns while smugglers pour illegal guns across the border shows how badly the Liberals have lost their way. How can judges, police officers, and others involved in law enforcement and justice trust his public safety minister when he says one thing behind closed doors and another thing in this chamber? The $742 million wasted here can fund 5,000 police officers, 37,000 treatment beds, but instead Canadians are feeling less safe and Indigenous peoples have our rights threatened. The public safety minister is failing. The minister and the Prime Minister must be held accountable, and Canadians deserve real safety, not Liberal games. Will the Prime Minister do the right thing and replace the public safety minister?
The Honourable Member for Brossard Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, it's with great joy and a touch of personal pride that I rise today to mark the 50th anniversary of the South Shore's Maison Internationale. This organization, where I gained extraordinary professional and social experience, is at the heart of welcoming and integrating refugees and immigrants to the South Shore of Montreal. It started in 1975 to support community members. They began helping resettle refugees and immigrants. They have been an incredible partner in resettlement efforts in our area through efforts to teach French and help people find jobs. They are helping thousands of people who choose to live on the South Shore of Montreal. Throughout my life, I've been fortunate to work in professions that I am passionate about. For 15 years, Maison Internationale was one of those passions. Congratulations on 50 years of service to the community.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Here we go. Oh, Pierre.
The Liberals have increased firearm crime, by 136%. They waste money. They're going after hunters and farmers. Meanwhile, they're taking money away from border and police services. Through all this, they've caused this crime wave. The public safety minister admitted that it's not working, the program won't work, but it's for electoralist reasons.
The minister has admitted that going after farmers and hunters' rifles is not going to fight crime. So the only reason to do this is politics. If he was telling the truth, then why not reverse? If not, why isn't he fired?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
There he is, the loser.
Mr. Speaker, the gun registry, what the government is doing with the gun registry is putting in place a much more efficient way, for Canadians to voluntarily return prohibited firearms, for fair compensation. This government is going to do it right.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
But his own Minister of Public Safety says this government is doing it wrong. He was caught on tape saying the program won't work, and yet they are going to rip $750 million away from our border and police services to harass duck hunters and farmers by banning the firearms they use. This approach has led to a 130% increase in gun crime under the Liberals' watch. The police say they won't implement it. The minister says it's a bad idea, but they're only doing it for political reasons. Why is the Prime Minister putting lives at risk for politics?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I don't even know where to begin with that.
No, he doesn't.
First off, in attention. The person who's putting lives at risk is the Leader of the Opposition who's voted against every single piece of gun legislation. What the Minister of Public Safety is doing it right. He's correcting an inefficient system to provide Canadians with fair...
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I have voted against the Liberal policy of reducing criminal sentences for those who use guns to commit extortion, to commit robbery, and to commit other serious offenses, while voting in favor of locking up criminals who use guns in the commission of crime. The police say that 90% of crime is done with guns that come illegally over the broken Liberal border. The Liberal Public Safety Minister admits that the Prime Minister is only playing politics. Will the Prime Minister stop the politics, fire the Minister, and leave Grandpa Joe's hunting rifle alone?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Once again, Mr. Speaker, I will have too little time to address all the issues, but let me go back to something the Leader of the Opposition said, which he described farmers, duck hunters using AR-15s to hunt. I don't see that. I don't see that in my great province of Alberta. I also know that what the Minister of Public Safety and this government are doing is tightening the border. Bill C-2, will the opposition stand up and support the tightening of the border as he claims?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
And there, the Prime Minister just admitted that he doesn't even know what his gun ban applies to. That's right. For example, this gun ban applies to 10 and 12 gauge shotguns, which are used by the great people of Alberta and all Canadians for duck hunting. It applies to 70 .22 caliber firearms that are used by almost every farmer to go after gophers. Will the Prime Minister stop wasting money banning gopher guns, read his briefing notes so that he knows what he's talking about, and fire that incompetent minister?
Go, Pierre.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what this government is doing is providing fair compensation for Canadians to return illegal firearms, illegal assault rifles, and what this government is doing is proposing the biggest tightening of our border in our nation's history. We want the support of the opposition to make sure that.
That's a very good point.
The Right Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
And he has absolutely no idea what guns he's banning, Mr. Speaker. He's banning 22s. These are known as farmers' guns to go after gophers and other pests. One of them is even called the plinkster, because that's the sound it makes when it bounces off a pop can. The Prime Minister is wasting precious border and police resources, harassing farmers, banning duck hunters, when real gun crime rages in our streets. Once again, will he pick up a briefing note so that he knows what he's talking about and go after the real criminals?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition has his briefing notes. The RCMP has their experience. The RCMP vets this list, decides this list, what are real guns and what are assault rifles, what should be kept off the streets. That is the process, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's knowledge bank on this subject is now depleted, so we'll move on to something else. The subject of food prices. Prime Minister said that he would be judged on the prices at the grocery store. Well, the verdict is in. Food prices are rising 50% faster in Canada than in the U.S., almost double the Bank of Canada's target. The Daily Bread says there will be 4 million visitors to Toronto food banks, a doubling over 2 years ago. And yet the Prime Minister has 3 grocery taxes in place and going up while people line up at food banks. Will he stop taxing food so Canadians can afford to eat?
Hear, hear. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me bring the leader of the opposition up to speed on taxes. This government cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. This government cut taxes on first-time home buyers. This government cut the carbon tax.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly.
That was a pretty impressive round there by Pierre, got to admit. Mark Carney, every time he stands up, he just looks worse. If nothing else, describe it that way. He's trash.
With the Supreme Court of Canada against state secularism in Quebec in the context of the notwithstanding clause. He will have read it, surely, and his Attorney General signed it. This Prime Minister solemnly swore that he would help Quebecers. He asked for their support. It suggested in the factum that we might use the clause to bring back slavery or take away women's rights, take away their vote. Does the Prime Minister believe any of that? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, what protects Canadians and Quebecers, men and women, young people and older people? What protects us all is the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. It is the Government of Canada's responsibility to defend the Charter. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. I want all Quebecers to see all these Liberals rising to collectively insult them. I'd like the Prime Minister to explain to me why, in his factum, he felt it was necessary to mention that Quebec might possibly bring back forced labor, slavery. There's also mention of racism. I'd like the Prime Minister to explain to me why Quebecers who live in the most progressive society in the Americas would bring back summary executions and death sentences. Why would he allow such insults to be written? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, there is a charter. There is a Charter of Rights and Freedoms. These are the rights and freedoms of Quebecers and of Canadians. It is the Government of Canada's job to defend it. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, there's also a Constitution. It was imposed on us and includes the notwithstanding clause, which we have the right to invoke. The government is opposed to the clause, and they have also leveled incredibly insulting criticisms at Quebec and at other Canadian provinces. Will the Prime Minister do the only decent thing, which would be to withdraw the factum and to apologize to Quebecers? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the government will not backtrack. We are defending the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. As for invoking the notwithstanding clause, that decision is up to the Supreme Court of Canada.
Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
What do you call a person who says one thing in public and then the exact opposite thing in private? Because that's exactly what this public safety minister did. He called the Liberal $750 million gun buyback a politically motivated scam. His number one job is to keep Canadians safe. Violent crime is up, gun crime is up, and 90% of gun crimes, police say, come from illegal guns. His main plan he calls a scam. This is stunning incompetence. Why hasn't he been fired?
Come on. That's not on my end. That freezes in. There we go.
The Honourable Minister Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I was proud to launch the assault-style firearm compensation program in Nova Scotia. We look forward to expanding it across Canada. This is part of a broader plan to ensure that our guns are off our street. It includes changes to the criminal code. It includes resources at the border, $1.3 billion investments at the border. And Mr. Speaker, Bill C-2 is right in the House today. I invite the party opposite to support us so that we can get that through Parliament.
The Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
Except in a private conversation, this minister said the exact opposite thing. He called the Liberal gun buyback a politically motivated scam. Now, imagine what could be done with this $750 million. How many police officers could be hired? How many border officers could be hired? How many scanners could be purchased to find the illegal guns coming in from the United States? And yet, he's doing nothing. He's pushing forward with his politically motivated scam. Canadians deserve better. They deserve to be safe. This is staggering incompetence. Why won't the Prime Minister fire him?
The Honourable Minister
Seaback
of
is so
Safety.
dry.
Mr. Speaker, staggering incompetence is when you think that AR-15s can be used for hunting and for farming, Mr. Speaker. We have brought forward a very important plan in Nova Scotia. We look forward to expanding it across Canada, Mr. Speaker. We look forward to doing that in the near future. We're going to be investing in 1,000 new RCMP as well as 1,000 new CBSA officers, Mr. Speaker. We will ensure that our borders are safe and guns are off our streets.
The Honourable Member for Barrie South Innisfil.
600 foreign nationals with criminal convictions are roaming around Canadian cities. More than half are on the CBSA's wanted list, and their whereabouts are unknown. Over 70% of these non-citizen criminals have been convicted of serious crimes, including sexual assault. The Public Safety Minister has one job, and that's to keep Canadians safe. On this and many other issues, he is failing miserably. And it's really hard to believe that the Prime Minister just yesterday said he has confidence in the minister. Why won't he fire this minister? Because not doing so calls into question the Prime Minister's judgment.
There we go.
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, this year the Canada Border Service Agency has removed over 20,000 people, Mr. Speaker. This is one of the largest removals in Canadian history. CBSA will continue to do its job, Mr. Speaker. We will ensure that we're hiring another 1,000 new CBSA officers to strengthen the border and to ensure enforcement, and we will continue to make sure that our borders are safe. We will, at the same time, ensure that guns are off our streets, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Barrie South Innisfil.
He can't find them. He can't find the 600 serious criminals who are non-citizens who should be deported but are roaming the streets of Canadian cities. The minister had the entire summer to come up with a plan to find these convicted non-citizen criminals who've been convicted of crimes like sexual assault. He lost them, and he can't find them. My question through you to the Prime Minister: if this level of incompetence happened at Brookfield, would he still have the confidence in that person, or would he fire them?
Broussard is brilliant.
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, this year the Canada Border Service Agency will be removing 20,000 people who are not eligible to be here, Mr. Speaker. This is one of the highest in recorded Canadian history. We will continue to strengthen the border. We will continue to remove those who are not eligible to be here, Mr. Speaker. We will also be investing in 1,000 new CBSA officers, along with 1,000 new RCMP officers to make our borders stronger.
The Honourable Member for Windsor West.
Mr. Speaker, the #1 job of the Public Safety Minister is to keep Canadians safe. The Liberals promised to hire 1,000 border officers, and yet their own documents reveal they have not hired any, and have no plans to do so either. This will result in more guns and fentanyl being smuggled across borders like Windsor and Sarnia. This Public Safety Minister has failed miserably. How does the Prime Minister still have confidence in this minister? Why won't he fire him?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, this new government has made historic investments in our border, and that goes for CBSA as well, Mr. Speaker. We are in the process of starting to hire 1,000 new personnel for the CBSA and 1,000 new personnel for the RCMP. We're going to do the work necessary so that guns do not get into Canada. These are investments that are necessary, while the Conservatives, all they did was make cuts. Cuts to CBSA, cuts to the RCMP, cuts to law enforcement that needed them the most. We're going to invest in these programs to make sure that we can fight crime in Canada.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent, Akiawenrak. Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of Liberal government, crime is on the rise. Violent crime has increased by 55%. Gun crimes have increased by 130%. Extortion has increased by 330%. That's a Liberal track record after 10 years. Now, the Minister of Public Safety has acknowledged that the gun buyback program has failed, that it's not working, that it's a waste of money, and that it will do nothing to keep Canadians safe. He is a minister in charge of the program. Why would the Prime Minister keep such a hypocritical minister? The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, it's difficult to accept criticisms of the Conservative when it comes to issues of crime, given their complete lackadaisical approach when it comes to protecting Canadians against gun violence. When you look at their record when they were last in government, they eroded investments at the border that makes it easier to have guns illegally smuggled into this country. At every opportunity, they have voted against measures that take assault-style weapons off our streets. Mr. Speaker, we have put measures in place that ban the kinds of weapons that have used to kill RCMP officers in Moncton, that have killed people during the École Polytechnique shooting, and that will potentially kill people going forward. We need to take gun crime seriously. I wish that...
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent, Akiawenrak. Mr. Speaker, the Justice Minister should use his words to try to convince the Public Safety Minister, because he doesn't seem to believe that the gun buyback program works at all. That's $750 million, which will not be used for the right things. The minister himself said it. Why is the Prime Minister keeping that minister in position? How can the Prime Minister tolerate having a minister who privately acknowledged that the program doesn't work? He believes the exact opposite of what he's supposed to believe. The Honourable Secretary of State for Nature. Mr. Speaker, I survived the Polytechnique attacks. 14 women lost their lives. Then, one of the largest petitions ever was tabled in the House of Commons. Women were calling for the removal of assault-style guns from our streets. Now, over 70% of Canadians, even in rural areas, want these guns taken off our streets. This is not about hunting rifles. This is about rifles that are designed to kill. We promise to do this, and we will. The Honourable Member. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, there's a saying that when the United States sneezes, Canada catches a cold. That must be why, as Donald Trump rants about climate change at the United Nations, Canada is turning against climate action through Bill C-5. 250 municipal councillors joined forces to call on the Prime Minister to build the country up rather than burn it down. They're demanding that major projects under C-5 promote public transit and energy-efficient housing and more, not that they promote oil and gas. Will the Prime Minister and the government listen to mayors or to Donald Trump? The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Mr. Speaker, if he had been listening yesterday and the previous days, he would have heard our Prime Minister at the UN talking about climate change and how Canada has been and will continue to be a leader in fighting climate change. We are doing good work, we're doing the right thing, and I hope that he will support us. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, the 250 municipal councillors remind us that climate change is all too real. This summer alone, 95 municipalities experienced dangerous quality air. 54 municipalities experienced forest fires. 37 experienced evacuations. 29 experienced extreme heat. To quote the mayor of Montreal, we must build up our economy by moving as far away as possible from the development of fossil fuels. Do the Liberals understand that rather than promoting oil and gas, we must move away from them? The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Mr. Speaker, I get the impression that the Bloc member across the way did not listen to the right speech. Had he listened to our Prime Minister's speech, he would understand that we take the fight on climate change very seriously. We will continue our good work. We want to build up a strong country. We will continue to work toward that. Thank you.
Foothills.
After 10 years of Liberal mismanagement, Canadians can't afford to put food on the table. In August, food inflation outpaced overall inflation by 84%, and food prices have gone up another 3.5%. But it was this Prime Minister who told Canadians he would be judged by the cost of food. Well, it's now Canadians who are paying the price for 10 years of Liberal photo ops, higher inflation, and breaking Canadian promises. Was this the Canadian dream that the Prime Minister promised? A country where Canadians can't feed their families?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, do you know what the best predictor of future behavior is? Past behavior. That's right. And Canadians have watched.
The Minister.
I've got to admit, I do like Frank as the House Speaker. He's the only improvement the Liberals have made under the Carney government. Frank in the chair there.
Okay, the Minister may continue.
Mr. Speaker, they might not applaud so loudly after I read through the list of things that these folks have voted against year after year. Mr. Speaker, school food programs, childcare, tax cuts, support for training, support for union investments, Canada Summer Jobs, Mr. Speaker. Canadians wanted a government that believes in them, that invests in them, and they have that with this government.
The Honourable Member for Foothills.
Well, let's look at the past record. Justin Trudeau promised to Canadians that he would lower food prices by Thanksgiving of 2023. Never happened. This Prime Minister told Canadians that he should be judged by the cost of food at the grocery store. Well, judgment has been rendered. Beef is up 33%, grapes up 22%, coffee 24%. And now we have apple farmers raising the alarm with the sharp increase in theft of their product because Canadians can't afford the grocery store. How many people and how many families are going to be forced to the food bank before this Prime Minister admits Canadians he broke his promise?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Well, if there is a silver lining, Mr. Speaker, it's that I see some promise in perhaps that member supporting the budget that will be tabled very shortly this fall, where we will propose ambitious investments in Canadians, in Canadian families, in Canadian workplaces, in Canadian unions, in major projects, in our national defense system. Mr. Speaker, I can only hope that Conservatives have seen the light and they should stop voting against Canadian interests.
The Honourable Member for Newtecumseh-Gwillimbury.
Mr. Speaker, while the Prime Minister jets around the world shaking hands with dictators and diplomats, Canadians are lining up in food banks in record numbers. He says he wants to be judged by the price of food in grocery stores, but he's too busy seeking approval at the UN to notice how much worse food insecurity is now for Canadians. Food prices have risen 50% faster in Canada than in the United States since March. How many more families must go hungry before he admits he's failed?
L'Honorable Ministre des Finances.
Mr. Speaker, I have enormous respect for this member, but it seems he's been missing in action this summer, Mr. Speaker, because this summer, 22 million Canadians
Canadians got a tax cut, Mr. Speaker. He should be standing there and celebrating, but instead, Mr. Speaker, he fought against childcare. He fought against the Canadian dental care program. He voted against the food program, Mr. Speaker. At every step of the way, the Conservative fought against Canadian. We'll stand on the side of Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Newtecumseh-Gwillimbury.
Well, Mr. Speaker, from what we see, this Liberal government cares more about international headlines than bread lines that Canadians are stuck in. They're saying, what about us, as food insecurity reaches a crisis point across the country? In my area, Simcoe County, a third of households can't afford to properly feed their families. Millions of Canadians are chasing their next meal. So why is the Prime Minister so focused on chasing applause from world leaders than the crisis right here at home?
That's it, though. That's the whole thing.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, there might be a new election, but the same old Conservative, Mr. Speaker. Same old Conservative. Slogans won't feed children, Mr. Speaker. Slogans won't do that, Mr. Speaker. But you know what's going to help family, Mr. Speaker? It's taking action like cutting tax for 22 million Canadians. Instead of fighting against child care, instead of fighting against farmer care, instead of fighting against dental care, let them see if they're going to vote for this budget that's going to be generational to build this country, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of this Liberal government and uncontrolled spending, the cost of living is skyrocketing. Our seniors now skip a meal a day to pay rent. The Prime Minister has broken his promise. He's spending more and delivering much less. Every month, the Moisson Beauce, a food bank, receives 6,000 requests from people in Beauce, and unfortunately 30% of these are from children. It doesn't make sense. Mr. Speaker, will this Prime Minister stop attacking Canadian families and take care of real problems that he's created himself? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, in this chamber, we're all gathered together to improve the cost of living for Canadians. We need to work together to meet their needs. And I'd like to point out to my colleague that last week, the Bank of Canada did reduce its key rate to ensure that many people in Canada, whether it's those who own a home or those who own a company, will finally be able to get a hand to make ends meet at the end of the year. But what I can also say is that we have cut taxes for the middle class and for first-time home buyers.
Everybody check their IQ. I think we all just lost about 5 IQ points in 30 seconds. Crazy.
For Richmond East Steveston.
Mr. Speaker, during the parliamentary recess weeks, I, along with my Pacific colleagues, worked actively on the mandate set out by our Right Honourable Prime Minister to engage with industry and all sectors to identify Canadians who want to collaborate, invest, and join us in building Canada. Can the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources please elaborate on how British Columbia is contributing to this nation-building effort and how our economic strategy ensures the needs of everyday citizens, like affordability, job creation, and regional equity, and being met through partnerships and investments?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for his question. Canada is undertaking a wartime-like effort to retool our economy and advance projects of national interest, including projects in British Columbia like the LNG Canada Phase 2 and the Red Chris mine, which will generate significant benefits for First Nations communities. I'd also like to let the member know that under the One Project, One Review, we are advancing projects like the new Silissum LNG export facility, led by the Nisga'a Nation, which will also have a pipeline associated with that project.
The honourable member for Middlesex London.
Speaker, the Prime Minister
said that Canadians would judge him by the costs at the grocery store. Well, the Liberal record holds that food bank use is up 142% since 2015, and the Daily Bread Food Bank expects 4 million visits in 2025. Families are cutting meals while costs are climbing and wages stall. He promised he would bring relief, but he didn't bring home the bacon, an item that's up over 20%. So will the Prime Minister stop the bait and switch and cut costs so Canadian families can afford to eat?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Speaker, seniors who built this country should never have to choose between paying for groceries or heating their homes. That's why our government has taken action.
Brush.
We're cutting red tape. We're building homes faster. We've introduced dental care, and more than 2 million seniors are already signed up to get benefits. We're building an economy that works for everyone. Let's be clear, Conservatives have a record of pushing the retirement age higher, cutting benefits, and leaving seniors behind. While they're voting against seniors, we are empowering older Canadians and protecting their dignity and peace of mind.
The Honourable Member for Middlesex, London.
Are about as empty as Canadians' grocery carts. In Middlesex County, 1 in 4 families are food insecure. It means they have no idea where their next meal is going to come from. And food banks, they can't keep their shelves stocked. At the checkout, grapes are up 22%, canned soup up 26%, coffee up 22%, and sugar up 20%. The Prime Minister's policies have clearly failed. So will he back measures that actually cut costs, or will he keep feeding inflation while Canadians starve?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for the question.
Mr.
Speaker, families clearly need support to tackle food insecurity. That is why we're ensuring that more children are getting nutritious meals at school, while saving parents hundreds of dollars with the National School Food Program. We're putting more money in parents' pockets tax-free every month. This is a program, may I remind my colleagues, that you all on the opposite side of the House voted against.
The Honourable Member for Sarnia-Lambton-Bekedronong.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister said Canadians should judge him by prices at the grocery store. Well, since he got elected, Canada's food prices have surged 50% faster than in the U.S. After 10 years of Liberal rule, we have record lineups at food banks. Families can't afford to put food on their table. They're struggling. The Prime Minister promised he'd be different, but it's just another bait and switch. So when will the Prime Minister cut food taxes, stop his plan to double the deficit in order to bring grocery prices down?
The Honourable Minister of Northern and Arctic Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, Nutrition North is showing real progress with results that are reaching more Northerners every year. In its first year, more than 15,000 harvesters were supported with hundreds of hunts and over 700 food sharing initiatives from Nain and Atsieva to Old Crow, Yukon, showing the program's reach across the North. In Nunavut, the price of flour in Rankin Inlet has dropped by more than 65%, and in Aluklik, a dozen eggs that was once nearly $10 are now just $5. And today, 124 communities across the North are being directly supported through Indigenous government.
The Honourable Member.
Does anybody know the real deal with that Chartrand there, Minister of whatever she's Minister of? She got fired for being a bully manager. And the Liberals knew about it, and they ran her anyway. Just a little tidbit on that.
For Calgary Centre.
Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of Liberal mismanagement, food bank usage in Canada is up 142%. In Calgary, demand for emergency hampers rose another 17% this past year. The Prime Minister said Canadians would judge him by the cost at the grocery store. Well, they are. They're lining up at food banks. This isn't about inflation. It's about a government that's lost control of affordability, employment, and in the end, human dignity. When will the Prime Minister stop grading himself on promises and start delivering real, tangible results for Canadians?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. You know, Food Banks Canada does essential work on the front lines, but they also make recommendations for politicians like us for better policies to support Canadians. So I'd put it back on that member. When we had a vote in this House of Commons just not that long ago on a national school food program, he voted against it. Every time we have a policy to support Canadians like $10 a day childcare or dental care, they vote against it. When we bring forward measures to ensure that there's more affordable housing for Canadians, they vote against it. So if you're going to quote the Food Banks Canada report, please read the report and consider some of their recommendations.
The honourable member for Calgary Crowfoot.
Mr. Speaker, the Calgary Herald reports record demand at the Calgary Food Bank as food prices at the grocery store continue to rise faster than inflation and as unemployment approaches 8% in Calgary. The Prime Minister said he'd be judged by the cost at the grocery store, and the verdict is a scathing indictment of this Prime Minister's performance. When will the Prime Minister stop running out-of-control deficits that are driving inflation, unemployment, and demand at the food bank?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, in the last election, Canadians had a clear choice between a leader with economic and business experience versus a leader opposite that has no economic experience whatsoever. We are laser focused on building a strong economy. We're cutting taxes for 22 million Canadians. We're cutting the GST for first-time homebuyers. Interest rates has just dropped. And we are going to build houses at a scale not seen since the Second World War. Mr. Speaker, it's time for the Conservatives to stop the rhetoric, help us build the strongest economy in the G7. Get on board.
The honourable member for Quebec-Mactaquac.
Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of this Liberal government, Canadians can't afford groceries. Back home, the River Valley Food Bank in Woodstock reports serving twice as many people this time of year compared to last. These increases span every age group, especially seniors. These are our neighbours. They're not just statistics. They're our family members and they're our friends. Can the Prime Minister tell this House how on one hand he plans on tackling inflation and bringing down grocery costs, while on the other hand he's doubling the nation's deficit? How's that even possible?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Mr. Speaker, every member of this House of Commons cares deeply about the cost of living for Canadians. But there's one difference, Mr. Speaker. There's one difference. On this side, we're bringing forward initiatives and opportunities for real Canadians by building this country, Mr. Speaker. We're going to build big, we're going to build bold, and we're going to build now, Mr. Speaker, with working Canadians. We're going to create hundreds of thousands of jobs, more opportunities for apprenticeship. Mr. Speaker, Conservative voters want this. I hope the opposition gets on board.
The honourable member for King Vaughan.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised Canadians he'd be judged at the cost of the grocery stores. Yet, in August, food inflation soared 70% higher than the overall inflation. Denise, a senior in Quebec, is now forced to skip meals to survive the crushing cost of living. This is another broken promise from a Prime Minister who has let our seniors down time and time again.
Shame.
Will this Prime Minister stop doubling the deficit in order to bring down inflation so seniors don't have to skip their meals?
That's right.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Point out, Mr. Speaker, I've been hearing the Conservatives complain about food prices, Mr. Speaker, but not one solution, Mr. Speaker. Not one idea, not one iota of support for some of the measures we've taken on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker. So those are empty, hollow words, Mr. Speaker, and my message to the Leader of the Opposition and the Conservative caucus, slogans don't put food on the table, Mr. Speaker.
I love it. The Liberals are always on this no slogan thing. They're still trying to sell the elbows up slogan. I'm telling you, they're so bad. I know everybody here knows, but it is frustrating to have their bullshit shoved in your face so often. They're ridiculous. It is disgusting.
The honourable member for Levis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, no one should have to go without food. Yet this week, the media reported stories of seniors who have to skip a meal to make ends meet. Unfortunately, this is the reality of a growing number of Quebec households which are being hit hard by food inflation twice as high as general inflation after 10 years of this Liberal government. Food banks can no longer meet the demand, and the last budget item that our seniors can cut is their meal, skipping one a day. Is the Prime Minister aware of the financial insecurity of our seniors? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. According to Quebecers, the Conservatives every day seem to find their conscience here in the House, but when they have to directly support seniors and families, all of a sudden their conscience can't be found. When it's time to vote for the Canada Child Benefit to reduce poverty, they vote against it. When we have to vote on a GIS increase for the most vulnerable seniors, they vote against it. When it's time to reduce the age for retirement, they vote against it. We have a serious government that is going to grow our economy to protect seniors. The Honourable Member for Leauville-Binière. Mr. Speaker, our seniors suffer in silence from financial insecurity, are also suffering from hunger, and they suffer from unaffordable rents and unexpected cost of illness. The PM can no longer even imagine the situation from his ivory tower. Inflation is eating away at all their hard-earned savings. When will the Prime Minister finally take action? The duty of a Prime Minister is to have both feet on the ground. Now the Prime Minister's honeymoon is over. The Honourable Minister. The Honourable Minister. The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. We had missed that, this type of performance, but these dramatic effects from the Conservatives don't put food on the tables. They don't to help seniors. And now that Quebecers and Canadians have rejected the Conservative approach of cutting the programs they need, now we can lead an ambitious plan to increase the purchasing power for Canadians with tax cuts for the middle class and to grow the potential of the Canadian economy. And I hope that they will support this ambitious plan.
Member for New Westminster, Burnaby, Millardville.
Mr. Speaker, young Canadians are facing unprecedented challenges that are affecting their mental health and well-being. All too often, the services they need are fragmented or difficult to access, and they've not been designed with them in mind. Could the Minister of Health tell us what the government is doing to ensure that young Canadians receive the mental health support that they need?
The
Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank the member for his question. Young people represent the strength to build our strong country, and mental health and addiction issues affect young people and young men, and this is one of my priorities, and that is why I'm pleased to announce that our government is investing in the creation of integrated services for young people across our country and in Quebec as well. We're opening centres, 17 in BC, for example. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Aurora Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of Liberal chaos, the housing market is a mess. Prices are still too high for buyers, sellers can't sell, and builders can't build. This Prime Minister promised change, but it's just another bait and switch. Housing starts have crashed. Pre-construction sales in the GTA have plunged to levels not seen since the global financial crisis. Young people are still unable to afford a home in which to live. The Prime Minister's answer? More of the same. Another costly housing bureaucracy. When will this Prime Minister stop building bureaucracy and start building homes?
The Honourable Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I've got news for the member opposite. He's got to check his facts. Housing starts are up in August of 25. They are up 10% over August 2024. So Canadians are building. That's right. Canadians are building. The interest rate is dropping, and this government is committed to the most aggressive affordable housing program in our history. We will see housing built by the tens of thousands that is below market and accessible for all Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Elmwood Transcona.
Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of this Liberal government, we are in a housing crisis. Builders can't build and young Canadians are priced out of the market. Now, housing starts are down 16%, and a new report shows that Canada is at risk of losing 100,000 housing-related trades jobs. That means construction workers and tradespeople, like me, will all lose their livelihoods while this government refuses to get shovels in the ground. Why is the Prime Minister building another costly housing bureaucracy in Ottawa while workers are out of a job?
The Honourable Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, again, the facts speak for themselves. We're seeing housing starts surging in Montreal, where there's a 32% increase this past month. We're seeing it in Vancouver as well. We're seeing housing starts increase in many jurisdictions across the country. And we as a new government are doubling down to make sure we're supporting builders. We're working with provinces, territories, and mayors to make sure we're building affordable housing at a scale that was never embraced by the members opposite.
The Honourable Member for Windsor-Tecumseh Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of Liberal housing chaos, buyers can't buy, sellers can't sell, and builders can't build. My community has an unemployment rate of over 11%. It's the highest in Canada. And now we have one of the highest markets in which to buy a home. A new report states that homeownership is only for the very wealthy in Windsor. When will the Prime Minister stop his empty promises? When will he stop building bureaucracy and start building homes?
The Honourable Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, again, I'll restate the facts that under previous Conservative government, housing was completely ignored for a decade. The reinvestment has been building up, and we're taking it to the next level here with a $13 billion investment in affordable housing for Canada. That includes $1 billion to focus on homelessness and supportive housing in ridings across the country where people cannot access housing. We're going to build like never before.
The Honourable Member for Sault Ste. Marie Algoma.
Speaker, September 30th is the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Can the Minister of Indigenous Services please update this House on what our new government is doing to advance the goals of reconciliation? Chi Miigwech.
The Honourable Minister for Indigenous Services.
Mr. Speaker, this marks the 10th year of the TRC's calls to action. This government has made historic decisions to respond. In this very government, we saw the appointment of the first Indigenous Minister of Indigenous Services, so they can be served by their very own. Also seeing Indigenous voices at the cabinet table, creating space for representation and decision-making. A Prime Minister who advanced the TRC's foundational request of inclusion and belonging for September 30th and every day after that.
The Honourable Member for Kamloops, Shuswap, Central Rockies.
Mr. Speaker, farmers love their animals and would do anything to protect them. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency is planning to cull 400 ostriches in BC because of an outbreak of avian flu. When it comes to animal safety, Canadians expect due diligence and transparency. Canadians are looking to this government to explain why the cull is necessary, but the Liberal government has not posted a public update in over a month. Canadians want to know, why did the Liberal ministers not work with the agriculture sector to resolve this issue?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to
to make sure that this member knows that I am working very closely with the Minister of Agriculture, and the case is now in front of the court, so I won't comment more. Thank you.
She's a voodoo woman, guys. Don't make jokes. She'll pluck your eyes out through a doll or something. She's seriously corrupt.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver East.
The NDP fought tooth and nail for the $4 billion investment in the for Indigenous, by Indigenous, urban, rural, and northern housing strategy. Yet 2 years later, the money still has not flowed. Shovel-ready projects are stalled while the housing crisis for Indigenous, Inuit, and Métis people continue to escalate. In creating Building Canada Homes, the Prime Minister is admitting that CMHC is ill-equipped to deliver the much-needed affordable homes that Canadians need. Will the Prime Minister let Indigenous services take over so that they can do what is necessary for Indigenous-led housing providers access to funds to build the homes that the community desperately need?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your home is where...
Go ahead, please.
Where you should feel the safest. And many Indigenous people live in housing that is overcrowded, contaminated, and affordable. But this new Build Better Homes Canada is going to finance Indigenous housing providers to grow affordable housing in community while catalyzing capital for a revolutionary approach to home building in community at a space that we've never seen in the darkest decade of government, the Conservative era.
I wish to draw the attention of members to the presence in the gallery of the Right Honourable Joe Clark, 16th Prime Minister of Canada.
He's all by himself. All right, gang, we're going to wrap it up right there. I was up all night. I was screwing around with my cameras. I changed some things up, and some of the cameras use HDMI, and some of those HDMI signals and cameras Anyways, I screwed up my audio card last night, and I didn't figure, I noticed that I screwed it up around midnight, and I started to fix it like 12:15. Anyways, took 7 hours. I was up all night. So we're going to run and make a couple of other videos and get going. I'd like to thank everybody for watching, tuning in. It is more interesting than it used to be in question period. Like, it's going to probably get pretty frustrating right before Christmas because Carney's not going to slow down. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And if you think that we're going to have a non-confidence vote before Halloween, zero chance. Possibly before Christmas, but I don't think Canadians are catching on quick enough. I'm preaching to the choir here right now. People that watch this and people that watch Question Period are tuned in. Like, straight up. If you're a Canadian and you watch 2 episodes of this, you're like, what is going on? That's how it started for me 2 years ago. On September 26th, in 2 days' time, it's going to be 2 years since I tried my first show. And it took me, like in that first show, I didn't know what was going on. I knew who Pierre was. I knew who Freeland was. I knew who Trudeau was. That was it. I think I know where they all live right now. Anyways, that Boulanger, MP Boulanger, he's drunk all the time. Like, that's not a joke. Just watch the way he speaks, for one. He slurs his words and his body movement. Oh, it's a gong show. Thank you all so much for watching. We're going out on one of my favorites here. We're going to go out on this. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll catch you next time.
You should do exercises. That's important to our good health. And friends, tomorrow we are going to be visiting with a fisherman who will tell us about his very enjoyable hobby. Now, I would like to see you all through our magic mirror. Romper, bumper, stomper, boo. Tell me, do. Magic mirror, please tell me today, did all of my friends have fun at play? I see all of my friends in Alberta. It's nice to see you. And I see Dan and Vivian. I see Marlon and Mona. I see Catherine and Harley. I see Anne and Elizabeth and Jane. I see Bert and Nicole, and I see you too. I hope to see you tomorrow, right here in Romp Room.
Bing bong knock knock, hey daddy do. Bing bong tick tock, bebop boom.
Kick off your weekend with exciting CFL action when the Edmonton Eskimos tackle the BC Lions in Vancouver. Tomorrow night at 10:30 on CFTO TV.